SEMO, of course, slightly north of downtown. So if you're on campus here, get to shelter immediately here in Cape Girardeau. As this thing continues to move to the northeast, it's going to go probably very close to McClure and Reynoldsville, probably more Reynoldsville with this new development kind of toward the northern side of this thing. So if you're in Reynoldsville, we've got less than 10 minutes. We need to be getting to our shelter there. And I really don't like where this thing is placed right now. We've got to be getting to our safe place of shelter here immediately here in Cape Girardeau.
It says train mobile spotter, confirmed tornado on the ground in Dutchtown, headed towards Gordonville, and they're following the tornado. It makes sense with where we're looking at the rotation. It's coming in and out of rain, so again, like Trent mentioned, this will be rain wrapped. We have a ton of moisture, and yeah, but Highway 25 observed some tree damage on the side of the road, but we've already got debris from this, and it's continuing to track quickly towards the north and east.
All right, we're searching for debris right here, and I don't see anything that jumps out to me here, but they're, again, spotter reporting tornado on the ground here just in the north of Dutchtown on 25. And
so it should be crossing 55, I-55 right now.
Yeah, at this point, keep in mind, this radar image is aged just a little bit. So this thing is going to be crossing I-55, and it's going to be crossing 55 right up here around the intersection with William Street, Highway K, where all of the densely populated shopping center, you got all the stores, the restaurants, the hotels. So we have got to be in shelter here, and then it's going to go across the northern side of Cape Girardeau. So we're talking about, you know, out toward Kappahaw Park and SEMO, right around downtown. So that's where this thing is headed. It is going to be a rocky few minutes here across the northern part of Cape Girardeau. It's going to cross
Trent, I'm looking at the chat here, and they've got a report of the damage is around Missouri Highway 25, and it says Missouri P, but yeah, the tornado is on the ground, or it was in Gordonville, and right extreme RFF on this.
Yeah, that's really, look at that. That is really strong outflow winds. This is a really strong area of rotation here passing over Cape Girardeau right now, getting ready to move across the northern side of town. So just kind of looking at some of the specific locations that may be impacted by this. Again, if you're looking at Kings Highway out toward Arena Park and Kappahaw Park, over towards SEMO, the Show Me Center, and possibly even getting close to the Century Casino up here on the river. Those are all some of the locations that, if this thing continues on its current track, may be impacted. But again, we've got reports of some damage out near the Gordonville area. Downtown Gordonville getting some very high winds, and again, some damage at the intersection of Highway P and Missouri 25. The question is, and the Weather Service brought this up, is that fresh damage or is it damage from the tornado a couple of days ago? So that we have to just go on what we're looking at on radar here. And this thing crossing 55, it's now over the middle of Cape Girardeau. And again, keep in mind, this is a radar image that's probably aged by a couple of minutes. So it's very possible that this thing is right out here closer to the Mississippi River. Strongest rotation going to go north of the bridge and near or just north of downtown, and then head across toward the McClure and Reynoldsville areas. It's going to be, again, real close to Cape Girardeau Country Club. And then it will cross the river. Of course, it's much more rural areas over here in Union County in southern Illinois. But we've got some very strong winds here. Even if we don't have tornadic winds, some of these pixels showing up as well over 60 miles per hour, over 70 miles per hour north of Cape Girardeau. So let's zoom out here again. We're watching the chat to see what is being reported from our spotter network that we have out there, and we will loop this again so you can kind of see how this has evolved as it's kind of blowing up, and now even stronger outbound winds showing up here north of Cape Girardeau.
Yeah, they're issuing off of that. It's merging with this line,
yeah.
And that's what's happened is that whole area, that broad area of rotation, these will spin up along that front line and basically go through a Genesis life cycle run, and that's what's happened. That's why they've had to issue a second, so it's likely 2 separate tornadoes.
So that new, Trey, do you mind to grab me that printout?
All right, for Union, Jackson, and Cape Girardeau counties, that is until 8:30. Here, take
All
that
right, so
over.
this new tornado warning here, let me zoom this out just a little bit. New tornado warning until 8:30. That includes northern Cape County into Union County in southern Illinois. See if it'll pick that up again for me here. Okay, it's not wanting to pick up on that. Thank you. So I'll read this off for you. Northwestern Union County, southwestern Jackson, and northeastern Cape County. Confirmed tornado located near Jackson, moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. Okay, so this storm now, the confirmed tornado in Jackson, Missouri. Damaging tornado, $half size hail. It's going to be near Trail of Tears State Park and Ware around 8:05, and will cross, again, is crossing I-55 at the moment between mile markers 99 and 106, moving to the northeast at 40 miles per hour. So there is the confirmed tornado. Very easy to pick that out on radar. Let's move up to the north just a little bit, and we'll put a new track on this so that we can get you prepared. If you're out in Cobden, we need to be watching this one very carefully. So there's our rotation moving to the northeast at 40. If it continues on this current speed and path, it's going to be headed just to the north of Reynoldsville at around 8:09, Anna 8:24, Cobden at 8:26. Take a quick look at it from the perspective of reflectivity, and let's also look at the hail very quickly. There is still a hail core, but that hail core is kind of cut down quite a bit here. Some hail back across Marble Hill, but hail is now not really our main concern here. Let me loop this and let's just watch the reflectivity just for a moment. Trying to see if we have perhaps a debris ball that's showing up. I don't see one right now, but the velocity scan is certainly very intense right here. Let's check the debris and see if we have anything being detected there. It's possible. It's a little messy. It's not typically, if there's real well-defined tornado debris, you get more of a circular dot, but there's something there.
Could be some hail.
Maybe, yeah, possibly some hail, or maybe just some of the outflow winds. But right here, if we have a tornado on the ground, that's going to be it, and it's off east of Jackson now, getting ready to cross 177. This thing really kind of, the storm evolved right as it came into the west side of Cape Girardeau and just to the south of Oriole and up toward Ware. That's going to be the area that we've got this rotation. So it's going to be crossing 177. Let me kind of list off maybe some locations here.
They just reissued that for the lower end. The original rotation just got a new warning, so they've got two separate cells, or actually two separate funnels up and down along this broad area of rotation. So
Okay.
that new warning looks like it was extended a little bit further to include Anna.
Okay. So let's zoom out here again. This thing is going to be moving south of Oriole, and this is out toward Trail of Tears State Park. So yeah, we've got, again, two separate tornado warnings here. We've got one tornado warning that includes Anna. That tornado warning runs until 8:30. And for some reason, our system is not wanting to pick up on the polygon there, but the other warning also runs until 8:30 tonight. But a broad area of some very strong winds associated with this, and if we have a tornado, it is going to be right in this area, getting ready to cross 177 and heading up into western Union County in southern Illinois. So just to the south of Oriole. Again, this is pretty rural area out here, 177. That's the Trail of Tears State Park, and then near Ware and up Illinois 3 toward Wolf Lake is going to be the region where, if this thing is on the ground, it's going to be passing next.
All right, this is an update to that one particular cell. Actually, we got a couple of things coming in here, but severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for northwestern Alexander, southeastern Bollinger, and then obviously Scott County, southern Cape, and then northern Stoddard County. So that's until 8:45. They're starting to see all of this is merging, and if you look back to the west of where this tornado is, there's a lot of energy coming through there. Mm-hmm. We'll likely see winds upwards of 70 miles per hour, and if the rain's heavy enough, we have enough of the instability left after the sun's gone down, we'll likely see very strong and possibly damaging straight line winds, which will be across a much bigger area than what a tornado would be.
Yeah.
So that's extending from, basically the thunderstorm was extending from Leopold to 6 miles south of Advance and near Dudley, and all of this is moving towards the east at about 45 miles per hour. I would expect large hail with these as well.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at that hail core here. Marble Hill down toward Advance, yeah, there is certainly at least some quarter-size hail in that. But what Mark was referring to, check out the velocity scan here, and there's a lot of wind energy being pushed into the backside of these storms, and you've got some very strong straight-line winds out ahead of this. And there is also there's a tornado potential or tornado possible tag on this, especially this part of the storm that's here around Advance. It wouldn't take much for that to spin up a little quick tornado, but I think our bigger concern now with this line is going to be straight line winds, and you see that rotating storm here that is now getting ready to move across the Mississippi River. It looks a little more broad in terms of rotation. It's not quite as well defined as far as we don't see that real tight circulation, but it seems like it's becoming more broad. It is quite strong where we have those outflow winds. There's also a little spot here back toward Delta where you need to keep an eye on that. There's still a bit of a couplet that shows up there. It's not real well defined either, but there's definitely something to keep an eye on there. Let's get back into our tornado warned part of the storm just so that we make sure that we're keeping a close eye on what's going on here. Very strong winds crossing the Mississippi River right now up toward Wolf Lake and Ware here in Union County in southern Illinois. That's going to be coming across Illinois Route 3 here shortly, And then from there, Cobden toward Anna along Highway 51 is the next in line for this particular storm. Let's go back down.
It looks like it looks like that tornadic supercell is encountering some of the more stable air, and that jet streak is, we're talking about 15,000 feet off the ground. The winds and the jet streams start picking up this late in the evening, and that is what's helping to add to a lot of the push going through these thunderstorms, and that's why we'll see strong straight line winds. At about 15,000 feet, it pushes down and noses down. Everything starts to accelerate. It's like pouring water on concrete. Once it hits the ground, it goes different directions, but this is going to be moving forward and pushing like that, so that's why we'll likely see some wind damage along this line. That seems to be the most intense portion right now. Yeah, right here. I've drawn this in the yellow. That's the part that Mark was talking about here with that straight line wind damage threat. On that warning, did you have what was the speed, forward speed of that? 45. Okay, moving east, 45? Yeah. Okay, so let's track this. This is going to be kind of our next big deal, is the wind damage threat. East at 45 or so, that will bring the storm into Jackson at 8:19, Cape Girardeau again at 8:27, and then Blodgett at around 8:35, Olin in Pulaski County at 8:54, and Cairo at around 9:02. So that's going to be the next thing that we're going to have to watch, is the potential here for some straight line winds. You kind of see this becoming more of that, almost that backwards C shape, just a little bit, that bowing segment that is here pretty close to Advance again. That is going to be the potential for that damaging wind threat. Let me check in on the chat real quick here. Have not had anything new as far as any confirmation of what's going on with the storm there north of Cape. There's still some rotation there, but it's becoming a little bit less defined. Let's see, I do think perhaps let me check this tornado warning here. All right, no additional reports of anything confirmed with that. Again, here's the thing we're watching. This still could produce a tornado northeast of Cape. We've also got this straight line wind damage threat, this bowing structure here back toward Poplar Bluff. There's another line of some strong storms, but here's the other thing that is going to become a big problem throughout the course of the night. As these storms move to the east, eventually this line is going to start to slow down, and as it does, it's going to set up shop and bring lots and lots of rain. If we see this big pink box out here, that is a flash flood emergency out toward Van Buren. Catastrophic threat tag there for severe flooding, and that's going to be a big problem for us spreading across the area overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. Keeping an eye on our system here that's moving across the Mississippi River right now. The tornado warning continues on for areas including Jackson and over toward Ware in southern Illinois. There's still a little spot here. Let me zoom into that. That looks like we could see, and it just updated there. Mark, what do you think? This is just really a lot of outbound winds right now. It's almost like it's becoming a little more. Yeah, it's become elongated, and it's starting to outrun its energy, and that's why we're seeing the quick spin ups, and that's why they're trying to cover that. Basically, they're trying to cover that whole line now, just to make sure that everybody's aware. You could have a very brief tornado that just everything is spinning in a counterclockwise motion, all up and down where that red and green are touching, and that's why tornadoes develop very quick, and that's why they've got the warnings out. But I would bet that we'll see this begin to taper. Yeah, it's not in
it's kind of moving into an area here that's not quite as warm and humid. There's not quite as much instability here, and as it kind of elongates out, it's kind of a sign that the storm is breathing out more than it's breathing in, and as it does that, it starts to tend to not necessarily completely fall apart, but become a bit less organized. And it also looks like it's kind of the back line behind it is starting to catch up with this storm, so it's not able to remain out by itself. A lot of times we talk about these supercells that have the potential for long track tornadoes. They're in an environment where they're all by themselves and there's no other storms competing for that energy. This storm, the line has kind of caught up with it, and so that is going to start to interfere with its ability to continue to produce at least these, longer track, kind of uninterrupted tornadoes. You see there's some...
And one thing, Trent, you were right on hitting the nail on the head about this line. It's looking like it's trying to elongate already.
Yeah.
And that's why we're starting to see the back building. Those storms due south of Marble Hill, storms actually are building back, which means the line is going to start to just lean forward and slow down, and then that's where the major flooding will begin, at least for tonight. And then tomorrow we've got another round. We're not done yet.
Yeah, I kind of, I don't want to say, with any certainty, but kind of have a feeling that this thing is going to have a hard time really surviving very long past the Mississippi River, because it is starting to show signs of I think the forward movement is starting to slow down. The wind energy is still there, but the winds aloft are all kind of parallel to this storm, and so it's just going to start to feed it moisture, and it's just going to rain and rain and rain. Yeah, there could be some little circulations embedded in there, but we do still see a pretty good signal here for some straight line winds coming into southern Cape County and into northern Scott County. This is kind of the one area here where we are still a little bit concerned about what we're seeing here on radar as we head over and look at the velocity scan again. That is a lot of outflow wind coming here into Ware and Wolf Creek and eventually moving over toward Cobden and Anna. But there's still some pretty strong winds here in Bollinger County. Some of these returns out toward Marble Hill, those whiter shaded areas, clocking in about 60 miles per hour. Now, granted, that's a little bit off the surface, but pretty strong. Even some of these outflow winds here in Union County, 60 to 70 miles per hour. Some of the pickles there off to the east of Anna, so that's going to cause some big problems. Folks, the Weather Service, what's that?
Flash flood warnings that are coming in, they're basically because of these thunderstorms.
Yeah,
and
lots of flash
They're
flood warnings.
dumping so much water that are ways of runoff just not possible. There's just too much, too fast.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it on the newscast earlier today. I talked about this morning that parts of western Kentucky have had between 4 and 9 inches of rain already since Wednesday evening. And by the time we get through this tonight and into tomorrow, a lot of the models have been cranking out another 4 to 8 inches of rain on top of that from late tonight into tomorrow, and that is going to be possibly some off-the-charts level problems with flooding. So that's a major, major concern that we've got, not to overlook the severe weather threat we got going on tonight, but flooding risk is going to be a big deal for much of the area going into some little smaller spin-ups that occur within that line. That's going to be kind of the big concern over the next maybe hour or so, don't you think?
Yeah, to be honest with you, the best example of this line being pushed like that is like when a paddle goes through the water. Eventually, all that energy is being pushed right through the middle. And then that's why there could be little jetties that spin off. It's just, you know, the atmosphere is basically a river of air. And so the same principles apply. And with that push right through there, that could spin up a very brief tornado, one or two of them. And but I'm noticing that they're not extending the tornado warnings, which means they're likely.
River, it's going to head toward Olive Branch. Should be on at least the southern flank of that storm at around 8:40. Anna at around 8:49, Dongola at around 8:54, and then over toward Vienna perhaps at 9:15. Of course, you draw a line down south of Vienna, you're talking about possibly Karnak as well.
Yeah, and one thing that we are going to be watching for all up and down this line is the possibility of a small spin-up tornado. So even though we have severe thunderstorm warning on the docket, doesn't mean that a tornado can't develop. Tornadoes come from severe thunderstorms, and that's how it happens. It's usually very quick as well.
Yeah, and you can see here our tornado or our severe thunderstorm warning here covering that. It does have the tornado possible tag, and that's when things become a little bit more challenging in these severe weather situations. What we call a QLCS. The scientific terminology there is quasi-linear convective system. So what that means is that as this line of storms, it's quasi-linear. It means it's not perfectly linear, it's not a perfect line, and where you have those little kinks in that line, well, that's where we can sometimes end up with a little spin that develops. The big supercell tornadoes, those are easier to warn for and forecast because you can really see them coming from a mile away. The little spin-ups that occur in these lines, they happen just like that, really fast. Sometimes they spin up, produce a tornado, and it is back up in the clouds before the radar can even sweep back around to see it. So that's where it gets a little trickier. But that said, look here to the north, the area that was under, or that is still under a tornado warning, we've now got a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag here. That includes Carbondale down through Cobden, McCanda, Murfreesboro. Severe thunderstorm warning until 9 p.m. for 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-size hail, and tornado possible tag. So with that, it looks like the tornado warnings will likely be allowed to expire. Some good news, emergency manager in Cape Girardeau County said that they are reporting no new damage around Gordonville and Delta. That was one of the areas that that was looking pretty rough with the last storm, but at this point, emergency managers not reporting any new damage there, so that's a good thing. Mark, a lot of printer activity. Those all flash flood warnings?
Basically, just as I mentioned earlier, that they're going to blanket this line. We're getting a lot of energy now that's being pushed into it, and it's now become a linear event. Yep. And you know, just can't emphasize enough though, take severe thunderstorm warning seriously. I think a lot of times it's overlooked, but you can still have very stout winds, and it looks like, you know, I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but just west of Cape Girardeau, we could have 70, 75-mile-per-hour winds. As hard as that is blowing through there, that surge is going to continue, and that's where we have widespread damage, and not necessarily just an isolated spot like a tornado. But we do have back building, which is following all the way back in northeast Arkansas. And so that right there says there's plenty of water, there's plenty of energy, that these storms will continue. So I would bet offhand we'll just have a line of severe thunderstorms for at least the next hour or two.
Probably so, yeah. And there may be some hail here too from Jackson west of Cape Girardeau. You see those pink shaded areas? That is where there's a lot of what we call vertically integrated liquidus, where the water is being carried up by the updraft, and then it goes up above the freezing level. It freezes into a little ball, and as it tries to fall, it gets caught up again. It freezes another layer, and that's how those hailstones grow larger. So a lot of liquid up in the atmosphere there that may possibly be an indication of some hail there. But yeah, the big concern right now, look at this long line. That green is where the wind is blowing toward the radar site. So you see the radar spinning back down toward Paducah. That's where the wind is blowing right through that storm, and it's coming down. That hits that rain brings it down, and you get these strong straight line winds, and you've got a whole line of it right here up and down I-55 across Cape County. Some very strong winds moving across there and getting ready to head into Union and Alexander County here in southern Illinois. Let's look at our reports real quickly here. Again, this is from earlier in the evening. We had a spotter confirmed tornado near Gordonville at 7:52, and we had tornado reported on Highway 91 in Advance. That was well over an hour ago. That's the same system that's spawned these tornado warnings that are getting ready to expire at 8:30. I do not believe that we'll see an extension of those, because now our big problem is this long line of severe thunderstorm, straight line winds that's coming right across Cape County right now. So if you're out ahead of this in Cobden, Anna, Dongola, and Olin, within the next 30 minutes, this line of storms is going to be moving in. And some of the readouts on radar shows maybe 60-mile-per-hour winds, but when you factor in the forward motion of those storms too, that adds to the speed of those winds, and so that puts the surface winds up maybe 75 miles per hour or so. Does look like, just saw a photo from MoDOT cameras over on I-55 that looked like there was indeed a tornado on the ground whenever that storm moved across Cape Girardeau here a little while ago. So that's certainly interesting. Mark, what are you seeing?
My biggest concern right now, obviously, is that bowing of the line. That's where that energy is pushing through, and it's hitting the Cape right now, or just about to. But that is where we're probably going to have some problems with some wind damage. And I think that when you have a bowing like that in your line, that just means that a huge surge of energy is coming through, and that, again, all the downforce and the pushing of the air down, that's really, with a jet stream like this that's starting to pick up in speed, that just really accelerates everything dropping. So, you know, these air molecules, they get pushed around and they get pushed hard enough down. That's when we start to see lines like this become damaging. And one thing I'm noticing near Poplar Bluff, we do have a thunderstorm that is just to the east of Poplar Bluff, but now we're getting some restructuring in the line. So it's possible that one of these sections may begin to rotate, especially on the southwest flank of these things. That's where we're looking for the potential tornado to spin up. And again, it's maybe like the last one. These tornadoes just spin along that protruding line and bow echo, and that's where tornadoes can happen and can do damage very quickly. But for the most part, I expect that we'll see the storms likely in the northern half be warned for most of their life cycle across our northern counties. Yeah, and there's you can see some broad rotation out here west of Poplar Bluff, and then starting to see the winds pick up here over Butler County as well. There is a severe thunderstorm warning for that action there that's coming across Butler into Stoddard County. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning until 9 o'clock, and that's for 70-mile-per-hour winds. Tornado possible tag on that as well. And as we head back to the north and look at the stuff that's coming across Cape County right now, we're 2 minutes away from, near Doniphan.
What's that? Near
Doniphan. That looks real suspicious.
Yeah. We're 2 minutes away from our warning here expiring. It looks like that storm was really able to fully kind of fall apart as far as the rotation was concerned, and the straight line winds here are taking over. But yeah, what Mark was talking about here is back toward Doniphan. This is a really pretty tight area of rotation. Now keep in mind, this is really high up in the atmosphere. Radar out here is scanning at several thousand feet up above the surface. Sounds like also we've got flooding concerns. There's a water rescue ongoing in Perry County, Missouri, and that's going to be something that we really have to pay a lot of attention to, is the possibility for a lot of issues from flooding going into tonight. Just a quick reminder, if you do have any reports to pass along, if you head to my Facebook fan page, I've got a post from earlier in the evening with a link, if you'll share your photos and flood reports and storm reports in that, so that we can take a look at those. I've already got several photos from earlier when we had the golf ball size hail over east of Murray. And we may try to start a new thread here in a bit, but if you have any reports, if it's safe to do so, please pass those along to us. Go to my Facebook fan page, Trent Okerson, WPSD-local6.com, and search for that.
That warning just popped up, by the way, for
okay, yep, there it is.
just west of Poplar Bluff. So that's tornado warning until 9:15. Quarter-size hail. It's located 7 miles northwest of Doniphan. It's moving east at 40. The individual cell itself is moving east-northeast, while the line is moving easterly. So we're going to see these pop up from time to time, and still nothing really blocking the feed and inflow to these thunderstorms out ahead of that line.
Okay, so yeah, we got 2 new warnings to pass along here, so let me get to this one first. And again, this is out, technically outside of our viewing area, but just for folks in Poplar Bluff, I want to go ahead and give you a heads up. Tornado warning for Butler, Carter, and Ripley County. That includes the community of Flatwood. This is the storm out here that is going to be heading over into northwestern Butler County fairly soon. Radar indicated rotation right now, but it's one that we'll have to watch closely. We've also got a new severe thunderstorm warning out ahead of this line that's coming from Cape Girardeau into southern Illinois. So this is a severe thunderstorm warning for Union, northern Alexander, and northern and central Pulaski County until 9:15. This is for damaging winds of at least 60 miles per hour and a tornado possible tag on this. And again, this is moving, I believe, at last check, at now 50 miles per hour. So this is again for mainly a damaging wind threat that could spin up a tornado with little to no notice. So here is the latest track on the leading edge of this. Moving to the east at 50 miles per hour. So as it continues on this movement, it is going to be moving into Anna at around 8:41, Olin at 8:45, Vienna at 9:04, Tunnel Hill at 9:09, and Golconda at around 9:31. We'll also need to watch out for this storm toward Karnak, perhaps around 9 o'clock. Worst of the storm just goes to the north of Cairo, but it's going to be a close call. Some really strong winds also moving into places like Olive Branch and Tams over the next 15 minutes or so, perhaps toward Lick Creek and Buncombe just before 9 o'clock. And again, this is a very strong area of straight line winds that we're seeing moving here across the Mississippi River right now. Look at that. That's showing some even stronger winds now just past Cape Girardeau. And as we get closer to the radar site, we might actually see some stronger winds here yet as it gets a better read on the data here with this storm. Stop this and kind of maybe query that and see if we can get a ballpark idea of some of these. At least 60 miles per hour here outside of Cape. Yeah, 63 miles per hour with some of those brighter pixels. So where is that headed next? That's going to be coming into northern Alexander County. You've got Olive Branch and Tams just to the north of that. is Olin, and then over toward Grand Chain and Karnak. So these are areas that got hit by a tornado just a few nights ago. And again, here we are with some very strong straight line winds coming in that direction. All right, let's zoom this out here. We continue to monitor a couple of different parts of the storm. There's also some very strong storms up here coming into Carbondale and Anna. The velocity is, we've got some pretty strong outflow winds here around Carbondale right now. And we'll look at the lightning on these as well. There's some lightning in here, not a ton. Typically what we look for is when we have a strengthening storm, the lightning goes up. When a storm is kind of holding its own, you can see several lightning strikes here now within the last 5 minutes or so. Kind of the core of that right over Cape Girardeau, and that's probably where we have some of those absolutely strongest winds. There's also a big uptick in lightning back here between Poplar Bluff and Dexter. That segment of the storm is very healthy. And then, of course, the tornado warning back near Donovan. A lot of lightning with that as well. There's a little area northeast of Poplar Bluff. We'll watch that. Some strong straight line winds here in Poplar Bluff. And then there's the tornado warned storm that's out near Donovan. We put a track on it just so that we're kind of out ahead of the game there. Moving to the northeast at about 50 miles per hour. That puts it up pretty close to Poplar Bluff, near or just north of town, around 8:58, Lake Wapapello at 9:09, Puxico at 9:16, and then Dexter at 9:26. All right, let's go back over here. Let me check the latest from the Weather Service and the chat to see if we have any new reports. Yeah, we're discussing the formerly tornado warned storm, the one that's up pretty close to Carbondale and north of Anna. Weather Service saying that those are fairly elevated, so they don't pose any kind of immediate risk for anything tornadic. Also reported some pea-size hail in Jackson, Missouri with that line of storms that moved through. Somebody a few minutes ago was asking about what is the pink box. So let me go back and talk about that again. The pink box out here, that is a flash flood emergency for Carter County, Missouri, and that includes the Van Buren area, Elsinore. That's Current River. So Current River and all those creeks that feed into it, with all the rain, they're experiencing essentially catastrophic level flooding. It is very serious flooding there. And take note of that pink box, because there's a better than average chance that we're going to see those in other parts of our area late tonight, going into tomorrow, with more flash flood emergencies likely with all of the rain that we have moving into the area. Look at all the rain showing up here on radar from Cape Girardeau back in between Poplar Bluff and Dexter, and then a tremendous amount of rain in association with that tornado warned storm that's out west of Poplar Bluff. All right, so again, the worst of the storms right now across our area, at least in terms of closing in on the immediate local 6 area, is going to be right here in southern Illinois. This line of storms from Carbondale down near Cape Girardeau, as we switch back over to our winds inside that storm. Some pretty strong straight line winds here crossing the Mississippi River into Union and Alexander County. We'll stay with you here until these storms make some progress. If we start to see these things beginning to weaken, which hopefully we do, we'll perhaps think about getting back to programming. We want to stay with this for a little while longer, because what typically happens is sometimes when you get these lines of storms, along that line you can get these little areas of spin that sometimes will produce a quick spin up tornado. So from Anna to Dongola and Olin, leading edge of these storms coming in town here shortly, it's not impossible that you could see a quick spin up. Keep in mind the severe thunderstorm warning here that goes until 9:15. It does have the tornado possible threat tag on it. So those are areas that we still have to be concerned for the potential for a tornado. Mark, you see anything on your end?
Yeah, just there's still a lot of energy in the northern half of that, and so I'm sure that Cape probably had some decent wind speeds, and Vienna, you'll get very windy with this as well. And we're now starting to get a lot of the flood warnings in, flash flood warnings, and with thunderstorms like these, it's not uncommon to have a very heavy rainfall. We've got a lot of moisture in the atmosphere to work with, so there's plenty to make a lot of rain. But then when you have thunderstorms that get larger and they're moving quicker, you get the jet stream involved, then you've got more volume to hold water. These storms get bigger, and then we're talking about a bigger bucket to hold the water. So that's why when they come through, we see some of the 5 to 7 inch per hour rainfall totals, and that's very, very heavy. And I assure you, as we get later into the weekend and the first of next week, that's when we'll really start to see the repercussions of all of this rain. I mean, we've already started, don't get me wrong, but I think the overall toll of having 15, 16 inches in some areas, it's going to be one for the books, no doubt.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for days now. The flooding threat it's really worrisome for tomorrow. It's going to be, I have a feeling we're going to be in some really bad shape for parts of the area that, especially in western Kentucky, Tennessee, the Boot Heel of Missouri. Some of us have already gotten 4 to 8 inches or more, and that's just really not going to be a good situation. Strongest winds right now here coming into basically Highway 51 all the way from Carbondale down toward McCanda, Cobden, Anna, Dongola, and Olin. And as this continues to move east, those strong winds are going to eventually be moving into Marion, Goreville, Buncombe, down toward Vienna and Karnak here over the next little bit. In fact, let's go ahead and zoom out. I'm going to put a fresh track on this to get you caught up on the latest arrivals. This line as a whole is moving to the east at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. So we'll put let's do this. Let's put a track on 2 different segments here so we get a better idea of some of the towns here. So 40 miles per hour here. The Carbondale storm moving into Carterville at 850. Marion at about 901, Creel Springs 909, Galatia 929, and Harrisburg at 934. And then the part of the storm that's here in Union and Alexander County, it's moving to the east at about 45 to 50. So an arrival time here. Olin is going to be coming in here pretty soon at around 8:48. Goreville at 901, Vienna at 909, Round Knob at 929, Eddyville in Pope County here at about 8:33. Here's another little something to watch. And you got to look real close. I want to show you something here on radar. So notice there's this little faint green line that shows up from Olin down toward Charleston. That is an outflow boundary. And sometimes when we see those outflow boundaries, that's a sign that the storm is breathing out more cool air than it's breathing in warm air. So sometimes whenever you start to see these storms become what we call more outflow dominant, it does tend to lead sometimes to a little bit of a weakening trend. It also could be that we see additional development fire up in the vicinity of that outflow boundary, but that's just a little something to watch. But right now, the storms here from Carbondale to Anna and Dongola are still very healthy looking and kind of accelerating forward again. So out here from Goreville to Vienna, definitely looking at the potential for some very strong straight line winds coming in here over the next 10 to 15 minutes. Look at that right here around Anna, bright shades of white, velocity clocking in there at 55, 57 miles per hour. Down here in Alexander County, we've got some 70 and 80 mile per hour readouts. That is not good at all. Look at this, headed over towards near Tams right now and headed toward Olin. Some of these wind signatures are really strong. Possibly close to 80 mile per hour winds, at least according to what we're seeing on radar in those areas. Again, let's kind of do a reset here across the area. Let me go back over to regular radar and zoom out. Again, we're staying with you here on TV and on Facebook Live because we do have an active tornado warning out in Butler County, and we've also got these severe thunderstorm warnings that carry the tornado possible tag. Actually, let's zoom in here to the Poplar Bluff storm and give you the latest on what's going on there. If you are in western Kentucky and northwest Tennessee, not talking about you guys right now because there's not much to talk about at the moment. Right now, things are centered up over Illinois and Missouri. We've been tracking this storm that's out in between Doniphan and Poplar Bluff. Rotation does not look quite as well defined here as it did just a little bit ago. It looks like we got a new severe thunderstorm warning out ahead of this. This is the area that we've been watching. I'll put this into motion, and you can see that we did have back here near Doniphan, there was a little bit of a couplet. We had red and green mixed together. Well, the red's kind of gone away, so it's not quite as organized as it was just a little bit ago. Looks like we got a new severe thunderstorm warning out here for some straight line winds for this storm right here. So let's get you that information. New severe thunderstorm warning is going to run until 9 o'clock now for 70 mile per hour winds, quarter size hail, and a tornado possible tag. That includes Dexter, Stoddard County, up into southern sections of Bollinger County. But some big time wind possible here in Alexander and moving into Pulaski County here. Let's zoom down here again and take a look at this. Some of those strong winds up here north of Tams and toward the Olin area here, close to I-57 now, south of Dongola. So that's going to be one of the main areas to watch here for possibly some straight line winds. Also some straight line winds looking like they're a little more intense up around Anna here in Union County as well. So anywhere here from Goreville south on I-57, expect those winds to get rocking and rolling here very quickly. Yeah, and you can see, Mark, those things are moving on very fast to the east. That lets us know these things are still very healthy.
Yeah, we're certainly going to have spots where winds are strong enough to do some damage. I assure you that when they come through, you'll hear them. They're going to be roaring quite loud. But the good news is it won't last long, and we're not really looking at any rotational boundaries at this point. So, good news is a lot of this has died down, and we can hopefully wrap this up here shortly and be done with it. But for the time being, with the tornado threat out there for at least one of our counties, that's important.
Let's see. Let's check on the status of our tornado warning. It actually looks like our tornado warning was canceled Let me
Okay.
confirm that. Let's move over here and check out Butler County again. Yep, tornado warning was allowed to expire there. The rotation was not looking all that healthy, and it looks like they have allowed that to expire. We still have two pockets of some really strong winds, one here around Anna and one here around Tams and closing in on Olin. Those are really our two biggest problem areas right now. Let me look at a couple products behind the scenes on that. Not really seeing any debris showing up there, but there is definitely some stronger winds coming in there to southern Illinois with these storms. A lot of lightning on the line of storms is down here in Stoddard County, so that is still a very healthy looking storm segment as well. Let me turn on the lightning data here. There's a lot of lightning here in Union County and Alexander, so we know this is still a really healthy line of storms. And then as we go to the southwest, right here, coming into Dexter, lots of lightning with that. All right, some new flash flood warnings coming out. Let's turn the lightning off, go back over to regular radar. So these are our two main line segments that we're keeping an eye on. Let's put a track on that southern one, and I believe we've done that for a little while. It's moving off to the east at about 40 miles per hour as well, 40 to 50. So Oran at around 9:10, Sykeston at 9:15, Charleston at 9:32, and Cairo at around 9:44. Those are going to be the arrival times here on that line of storms. If it holds together, that one may eventually end up in western Kentucky, but it's got a ways to go before it gets there. And then again, watching here the strong winds coming into Tams and Olin here in southern Illinois very shortly. Let's put that into motion. Watch what this thing's been doing over the last little bit. Still kind of bowing out there. And headed toward the Vienna area. That's going to be the next area of concern here for the possibility of some strong straight line winds. Check the chat again. Looks like we may have had an extension to our tornado watch. Yeah, we got a new tornado watch for the Boot Heel, Missouri, and a few counties in northwest Tennessee until 4 a.m. All right, so here's what I think we're going to do. Our tornado warnings have been allowed to expire. We've been going here for a while. We do have our severe thunderstorm warning here from Anna down through Olin. Let me put another track on that, give you some arrival times on this, and then I believe we'll toss it back to programming for a bit, kind of do a little bit of a reset here and watch behind the scenes. This is moving east at 40 miles per hour, so the arrival on this line of storms is coming in to Goreville at around 9:12, Vienna at 9:16, Temple Hill at 9:39, and Golconda at around 9:50. So with this line of storms, last couple radar scans, not quite as strong on the winds here, but we'll be watching this. And then we're also watching our storms back in Missouri in Stoddard County. This line of storms coming up toward Dexter, mainly a straight line wind threat at this point. That's going to be coming up Highway 60 towards Sykeston within the next 30 to 45 minutes. So we thankfully do not have any tornado warnings across our area right now. We do have some of those severe thunderstorm warnings. Those will continue to scroll down at the bottom of the screen. But for now, we're going to take a break. Mark and I are here. We're not going anywhere. We'll keep an eye on these storms. And if we have, well, did we get something new? No. Okay. All right. So we'll keep an eye on these. Any new warnings, we'll pass them along to you. We'll take a quick break, get you back out to programming, and thanks for staying with us here on WPSD Local 6.